everybody. This is Dr. Holloway. Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Healing Conversations, where my aim is to heal hearts and heal minds one conversation at a time. And I know some of you out there have some type of resolution around your health, diet, or losing weight. And today I have a wonderful plant based chef who is phenomenal, and she is going to give us some tips on how we can do better, y'all. I know somebody likes some fried chicken out there, but that fried chicken may not be good for you. So she's going to educate us and give us some information about her coaching services, as well as some really good culinary tips to help us be healthy for the new year. So without further ado, y'all, I have Miss Chef B, and that's B
Hello.
with three
That's right,
E's.
right. Get it right. Be empowered, energized, and engaged. That's what those three E's are for.
Yes, ma'am. So tell us a little bit about yourself so we can know who is on the airwaves today.
Yes. So, greetings, everyone. Happy New Year to everyone who's watching on YouTube, on
And TikTok.
TikTok, right? And just everyone that's in the building. My name is Dr. Natasha Bruley of Inyansipo Wellness Institute. That's the company that I own. And I am a holistic health educator, just wellness. Originally from Guyana, South America, grew up in Brooklyn. I've been in the A for more than 3 decades. Went to Spelman. I'll give you my whole stats.
Give it. Let us know
Why
who you
not?
are.
Why not? And yeah, doctor, because I actually have a PhD in math education from UGA, but turned into the wellness, or really shifted gears to the wellness focus.
Tell us how you
Um,
made that transition.
yeah, so I mean, I'm sure you know because
Come a little closer to the
I
mic.
see
There
that
you
you have doctor in front of your name. It's very
go.
stressful
It is stressful.
getting
Mm-hmm.
PhD, MD, all the D's, all
Mm-hmm.
those things
All of
behind
it.
your name, right?
It is.
And so, actually, when I was in graduate school, was diagnosed with hypertension, early stages hypertension, and all the stress of the things, and just life was intense, but I was managing it. But then it got more intense. Had a baby, got married. That was crazy. New job. Just life was lifing,
Life thing, as they say.
as they say. And so had to make lifestyle changes like most people do when life is lifing.
So you're saying once you got that diagnosis, that prompted you to have more awareness of your health and
I
what?
would say no,
Okay.
because, it was literally just early signs of it. The thing that really took things over the edge was once I gave birth to my first child, or giving birth to my first child. I actually developed preeclampsia during the delivery or right before delivery, and which is gestational hypertension.
Right.
I was also a bigger girl, not because that's my history, but because I was mood eating,
Mm-hmm.
just not eating the proper things because I was stressed, I was depressed, I was going through a lot. And so got up to like 220 something pounds, which is crazy when I
I
think about it
cannot see
now.
that.
I can't see it now either.
She looks amazing, y'all.
And so, I mean, just even that, like, going through what I went through, I was like, I don't want to go through that again. That was crazy. So, though that actually, the way my child came into this world, having to get a cesarean, all of those things, that was what prompted me to start making a change. And then it's like, wait a minute, I could do better. I know I could do better because I had already I had the awareness when I was in graduate school, because I was always in school, that this thing is stressful. Let me at least start working out. Let me start doing something for myself. And that was at 20 something. So when these life things happened, I was like, okay, you know what to do. It's not like I was clueless to it. And so with that, I was like, yeah, I need to make some changes.
So deep breath. Thank you
Woo.
so much for being so transparent. You never know who's out there listening that's trying to
Yeah,
figure
it's
out
a lot.
how to change and dealing with stress in itself. In the Black community, stress is one of the silent killers among us, right? And
Yes.
so, like you said, the hypertension, and on top of
Hmm.
how we're eating, and overall, we don't understand that have this undercurrent of stress every day that we don't
Every day,
acknowledge,
every
right?
day.
And so then bring it into a different situation, such as a real medical condition, can
Yes.
exacerbate the symptoms that we're already having. So,
Yes.
what were some things that helped you become more plant based with your diet?
So let me continue with what the journey was. So
Okay.
that was the thing that prompted me to really start getting the awareness that I need to make a change, right? And then I remember having the opportunities while I was, taking breaks in the summer from teaching because I was teaching at a college to do some more, I call it continuing education, professional development. And I wanted to have opportunities to really pour into myself and learn how to better serve myself, serve my body, eat better. But I didn't necessarily know where to go. And a good friend of mine shared information about an amazing place, which no longer exists now. But I learned how to eat what they called raw food, eat raw, which is plant based, a kind of plant based eating. So I learned how to eat plant based there.
And chef, help us out here because somebody thinking all that means is salads.
No,
Okay.
absolutely not. Okay.
Somebody, I don't want salads every day. Tell us what are some things that
Absolutely
are plant based
not.
that are delicious that may encourage somebody like, hey, I might be able to try that. I might like that. What's up?
Yes. So, I mean, I think there's just all these misconceptions around what plant based eating is.
No,
And
let's clear it
so
up.
let's clear it up. So, there are ways that you can repurpose, like just configure, reimagine how to use nuts and seeds, things like
You're
nut meat
right. I saw
pates,
some walnut meat into some
walnut meat, and
tacos.
some
Yeah,
tacos. I think we see that on TV with
yeah.
what's my girl in California that everybody loves, Tabitha
Yes,
Brown.
ma'am.
Her pecan meat tacos, right?
Tacos.
Yeah. So the
I
thing
would have
is,
never imagined that 10 years ago.
exactly. Well, I mean, these were early thoughts, right? So when I was actually going and finding this education, I was blown away by just how amazing you can change plants to taste like things that you already love.
Hmm.
I don't want to say that you can mimic it to make it taste like meat because that's really, I want us to move away from
I
that.
agree.
All right. But I would rather say, wow, there's some other ways that we can eat plants that taste just as good, that, you know, elevates our flavor palette and is very creative. And so there's nut meats, pates, there's wonderful ways that you can use avocados, you can make guacamoles, you can do cheesecakes with these things that you can do with cashews. You can do, yeah, like desserts, like strawberry cheesecake. You can
Wait a
do,
minute.
yeah,
Strawberry cheesecake.
strawberry
But what's the
cheesecake.
cheese? Because I know it's not dairy. So,
Listen, you some nuts, soften them up, blend dates and honey and
what?
lemon, and tastes just like some cream cheese, like it tastes the same. And that's
Wow.
what you start seeing from the alchemy standpoint of food.
Okay.
You start seeing that, wow, really we're all made, not just us, but nature, the things in nature are all made from the same things. They just are. Fish, meat, chicken, vegetables, trees, water. It's all made, we all come from the same source in a
Mm,
way. And so this is just one interpretation of it. And then here's another interpretation of it.
I love that.
This interpretation might work for you. This interpretation might not work for you. So it's all about finding the interpretations that work for you. And so that was so exciting to me. And I felt like I was at the beginning of it's the new era, and sharing that in the community, that was really the thing that I knew that I wanted to do. I wanted to show people how they could eat plant-based, how they could, you know eat raw, how this can help to elevate their bodies, help to elevate their minds, and then
That's good.
transform everything.
There's a growing evidence linking our nutrition to mental health. From
Yes.
your perspective, how can a plant based diet impact mental well being?
So there are all sorts of nutrients that we get from our foods, our B12, our folate, choline, omega-3 fatty acids. These things absolutely connect to how well our brain functions. All right. And so if we're choosing foods that are rich in those nutrients, those vitamins, those minerals, those things, then it's going to help to impact our mood. One of the biggest parts of our food is how it impacts mood. Does it help to elevate the mood, or does it push you down? Does it depress the mood? And so, even in certain ways that you eat, intermittent fasting, drinking, hydrating properly, eating the live foods, the living foods, the way it digests in the body, all of those things impact the mood. So think about, just to give you some perspective, think about Thanksgiving, right? We all opt into this, right? You go to Thanksgiving dinner, you eat the turkey, you eat the stuffing, you eat the mac and cheese, and you already know what's gonna happen.
When
You're
you
gonna
got the
be
itis,
you're gonna fall out on the couch with auntie, and y'all just like in a y'all
slumber.
comatose. You
Uh-huh.
comatose, you're in a daze. And we opt into that each and every year because we like the way those foods taste. Well, what if we choose a different option? What if you eat something during Thanksgiving, during Christmas, during the new year, whatever it is, and it doesn't make you feel like that? You feel energetic after you eat it. You don't feel bloated after you eat it. You feel like you have more energy, you're more alive, right? You have a pep in your step. That's again another interpretation of how we can feel after we eat food. And so by choosing foods that are rich in some of those things that we just talked about, that is something that is available to each and every one of us.
And one of my studies with this concept of food and mood, there's a growing body of evidence that I know of that really speak to the point that, hey, if you're eating more of these things, then you can feel better. I
Mm-hmm.
personally struggle with seasonal affective disorder, which is basically
Mm.
when the sun is not visible between October and, let's just say, February, my mood is really low.
Mm.
But
Mm-hmm.
there are some foods that I can eat and things that I can do to help elevate. So I'm very mindful of what I'm eating during this time. Like salmon is very good to help
Mm. Mm-hmm.
improve how I'm feeling. Those nuts that you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm tearing up sunflower seeds and
Mm-hmm.
almonds and all those
Yeah.
things. But I'm very much aware that that's something that impacts me. And so I can adjust just by changing how I'm eating,
Yes.
specifically during October and February.
Yes, I love
Yeah.
that. And I'll say this, during the cold seasons, we talked about raw foods, but during the cold seasons, just depends on your perspective on foods. I know there's some people who are raw 24/7, but I would say that you'll find more success in eating raw if you're in a more warmer climate. All right. When you're in cold climates like we're experiencing here in Atlanta right now, there's also a need, I would say, to include warming foods, so
So,
soups and teas. And I would also argue that some of those things might help you to feel better as well. But eating raw food it's not necessarily, not for everyone, it's not necessarily going to satiate you in the same way if it's cold outside. And so I'm a believer that you have to figure out what works for you. There's not just one perspective on eating. One person's food is the other person's poison, a bio
that's true.
individuality. And so
Speak on that. Somebody may not know what bioengineering is.
bio
Oh,
individuality
individuality.
bio individuality is a phrase coined from a gentleman from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. That's where I did one of my studies of holistic health coaching. And it just simply means that the things that work for you doesn't necessarily work for others. So some people need salmon in their diet. Some people need a little piece of beef in their diet. And we shouldn't, from that perspective, shame them because of the things that they're eating, because it's not the things that we eat. We don't eat.
Are you familiar with eating for your blood type?
Yes, that's one dietary theory. That's one of hundreds of
That's really cool.
dietary theories. So that's one of them. That's not a foolproof way of eating, but it's just a perspective on how you eat. Now, when you look at the research, right? I mean, I'm a positive, so I'm a natural vegetarian.
Vegetarian. Same
I
here.
didn't know that at the time, right? I didn't know that I was a positive, but when I looked at what was happening in my life, I trained for a marathon on a completely plant-based diet and I felt
Wow.
amazing, energetic, and then found out about this blood type diet thing afterwards. And I was like, oh my God, like maybe there's something to this. So it's just a theory. It's just a theoretical perspective on how we can eat. Some people believe in it, that's it,
Yeah.
right? But then there's the Atkins diet.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's keto,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's
Mediterranean.
Mediterranean, right? So some people say, that don't work for me. I can't just eat fish. Oh, I don't like the way it tastes. So you know when you start having conversations with people that not one of those things work foolproof
For everybody. I
for
think that's
everyone.
important to
That's
let
very
people know
important.
too.
I will say this though, and it's not a dietary theory, but incorporating more plants, no matter where you are in those dietary theories. Just incorporating more vegetables, fruits and vegetables, will help to reverse chronic illnesses,
Mm-hmm.
will help to give you longevity, right? Just by including fresh, not let me be clear, because
Right, because somebody might have those
they were like, I
canned
got them
goods.
canned goods and some. No, we ain't talking about that. We're talking about fresh vegetables, fresh fruits. You can actually look at it and peel it, cut it up, those kinds of things. Those will help you in the long run if you, no matter what, no matter where you're eating, how you're eating, what you're eating, include more of those in there and it will help you in the long run.
So, when you gave your introduction today, you
Mhm.
shared with the audience that you was from Guyana.
Guyana, South America.
All right. So, have any of your upbringing or cultural background played a big influence in your approach to food
Mm.
and cooking?
You know what? I love that you asked that question, Kanika, because I'll say that when we look across cultures, particularly the Caribbean, the South, which the foods kind of overlap in some respects, it's not always the healthiest. It's just
Mhm.
not, right? There's a lot of sort of these traditional things that we eat, like souse and, things that's like the,
Processed, heavily
well,
processed.
not processed, but it's the leftovers of the animal.
Ah, yeah.
So the hooves of cows
Mm-hmm.
and pork and these things, right?
Chitlins.
The chitlins, right? And then also based on the environment, we use preservation techniques like salting things, salting fish, salting beef, right? Just so that we have preservation of our food. And that, of course, can lead to hypertension.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the things I would say that has really impacted me is like, okay, how can I make some of the foods that I love better? How can I elevate them? What can I use in substitution for some of these things where we still have the flavor of the
You
culture?
know we gotta have
We got to have the flavor of the culture,
flavor.
but we don't have, all the bad things
Right.
that those flavors and that eating can potentially bring.
So what you discovered?
So there's some things that you have to leave out. So I'll say this: one of the things that I absolutely love from growing up is curry and roti. If you know about roti, in the Caribbean, the Indians, the East Indians came and they brought roti.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and it is a bread. It looks like a tortilla, but it has a lot of flavor, and depending on how it's made, it has little lentils inside,
Mm-hmm.
and we use that to wrap curry sauces, potatoes, chicken, beef, you name it, and then you eat it, kind of like a burrito. So everybody got their version of similar things,
Okay.
but knowing that carbs, over eating of carbs, can really help to bloat your skin, bloat your body. It's like, okay, we can have it every now and then, or maybe the way we make it, we don't have to make it with lard. We don't have to make it with vegetable shortening because that's traditionally how it's made. we can make these things with, a healthier fat. And we can only have them every now and then. We don't need to have them all the time. And maybe we just leave them out. Maybe we have the sauce with some quinoa, or maybe we have the sauce with some brown rice instead of the white rice that we traditionally have things with. So just swapping out things, which is, any type of lifestyle change, you want to think about ways that you can swap out the things that you love for things that are healthier for you. So,
So you mentioned swapping out.
hmm
Now, a big pushback or resistance of people say when I'm in circles talking about plant-based eating or vegetarian or vegan, it's like, what about the protein?
hmm
What advice would you give to somebody that is so concerned with not getting enough protein in their diet?
So I'll say this: we've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, all the things. Plants have protein. Plants have protein. Legumes, pulses. When I say pulses, I'm talking about like chickpeas and beans. Those are considered pulses. All of those things they're rich in protein, but we've been hoodwinked to make us think that those things don't give us enough protein. Every time I go to the doctor and get my blood work done every 6 months or so, they check my protein level and they're like, "You're good." And I haven't eaten meat in 3 decades. So
Wow.
I'm getting protein from somewhere. I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting it from the kale that I eat, the Swiss chard that I eat, the broccoli that I eat. It may not be enough to bulk me up, but I don't want to look like that
Right,
anyway, right?
right.
I don't want to look like
I
that.
remember in my early 20s,
Hmm
I decided to go vegan. I
Oh,
did. I did. And
good.
I did it cold turkey, but I did not have the education that is
hmm
out there and available now. I got really sick because I didn't know about the balance and the chemistry and
hmm
understanding,
Yes.
you know, what am I replacing, like you mentioned earlier. So I took a lot of things out, but I wasn't properly introducing my body to things that were nutritionally sound. And so I got really sick, and I was like, wait a minute. So I
hmm
went back to eating meat
hmm
because I didn't understand the science. And so I think it's important that you
Yes.
listen to your body if
Yes.
you're making any type of these transitions, and speak to your doctor about it. But understand that
Absolutely.
your doctor may not have all the information because plant
Yep.
based diet is still relatively revolutionary.
Absolutely. And I would say you can talk to someone like myself. I'm a holistic health coach.
What does that look like if somebody was to reach out to you and they're interested in making that transition?
So what we would do is we would definitely see what your last labs look like. And, I'm just not necessarily diagnosing or any of those things, but just coaching them, helping to ask questions like, so to guide the person into choosing for themselves what they believe, because they know the best about their bodies, what they should have and what they shouldn't have. Because I would ask you in that situation, you said, I started getting sick. All right, what kinds of things were you eating? Right? We would have
Okay,
the
now.
no, no, right, but those would be the kinds of conversations that we would
Okay,
have.
got it.
What kinds of things you eat? Because I remember when I was vegetarian back in the day, I was in college and I was going up to the Popeyes over there
Right.
in West End, eating French fries. I
With the
had the Cajun fries
biscuits.
and a biscuit, and that was my vegetarian.
Right.
But that's just carbs and
Mm-hmm.
oil, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was no vegetables in there. There was no protein in there at all. Now, of course, I balanced it with salads and things of that nature. But there's some people who would just eat that. I'm like, yeah, I don't eat meat. I just eat this because it's a cheap meal, etc. So we would basically go down the rabbit hole and figure out what's working for you, what is not working for you, and then try to figure out some solutions on what should you do next in terms of your eating.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, how did you become a coach? Did you become the coach first? Or were you the chef first? Like, how did you
Ooh.
overlap the two? Or did
So
they happen simultaneously?
you know what? I've been cooking since I was 10. I've been cooking for a very long time and loving food and loving to experiment in the kitchen. I would say that um, I became the educator first, right? And when I started studying and learning about all of these different things, it blew my mind away. And I said, you know what? I want to bring this to the community. I want to share what I know to the community. And actually, learning to be a coach, someone shared with me about the program she was in and said, I think this would be good for you. This would be a good way for you to expand what you're doing. And the things that I learned in that coaching program was revolutionary. It was just very, very different. We were talking about the microbiome 10 plus years ago. Now it's such a big deal because the research is now coming up, right? We were talking about in that coaching program that diabetes is type 3 diabetes is Alzheimer's. That's what we were talking about in that back then. So it was very revolutionary, very cutting
You got
edge.
some people saying, "What?"
Right. There was just so much new information that I was learning. And I was like, oh my gosh, I really want to support folks. And so I think everything happened organically, just being out there, having the desire to share how I was eating, what I was doing that was different, and then just really sharing it with the community. And then these other opportunities start coming, and I'm like, okay, let me share more of that. And so coaching just kind of developed on its own. The chefing part, I remember when I moved to Atlanta, because I lived in Gwinnett for some time.
Okay.
And there's an organization here that runs a lot of the farmers markets that people attend on a weekly basis. And a friend of mine was telling me, girl, they're looking for some chefs to do some educational outreach. You would basically go to a grocery store, go to a school, or you would go to a senior home, a senior citizens living facility, and just talk to them about eating plant based, encouraging them to go to the market. I said, girl, I ain't no chef. And, they probably need all these credentials. Again, coming from the world where you need credentials to do anything. And she's like, girl, you just need to do it. And I did. And I loved it because I'm like, it's education. It's education. And I think at the heart of everything that I do is education.
What do you think people need to know about plant-based diet? Maybe some dispel some myths. Something you would like the audience to know, or at least think about.
I would say the biggest thing that people need to know is that they're not as far away from being plant based as they think. You already eat some form of fruit or vegetable. When people say, I don't eat vegetable, I'm like, you eat something that's a fruit or vegetable, whether it's an orange, whether it's watermelon, whether it's an apple, it's something, a salad, something. It may not be all the time, but you eat it. And so this idea that, oh my God, plant based, no, you are not as far away from eating that way as you might think. That's the first thing. Um, I will also say that you don't like everything. You don't like everything. So there's some ways that even the person who doesn't like anything can make healthy swaps. You can make a healthy swap, whether it's from white bread to wheat bread, from brown rice to quinoa, from chickpeas to black eyed peas. You can make a swap. So rather than saying what I don't like, because that's the first thing people like to say, I don't like this, I don't like. What do you
Focus
like?
on what you can
What
do.
do you like? And then based on what you like, then we can now figure out what we can work with based on what you like. So we gotta be positive in how we view ourselves and our eating and our lifestyle, and not negative. We always want to kind of just push, man.
It's the resistance.
It's resistance. So we got to just reshift. We got to shift how we think about ourselves and our food. We just have to. Let's see. What else?
Misconceptions about plant-based eating.
Misconceptions about plant-based eating and diet. I would also say that it's more delicious than you think.
Give us one of your favorite recipes.
One of my favorite recipes is, again, I'm going back to that curry. I love curry chickpeas with vegetables and potatoes, and I love that with brown rice and some like kale on the side. That's one of my favorites.
So if somebody joined your meal prep, will they
Mhm.
get those types of
They would
dishes?
get those kinds of things. Absolutely. Right. Plantains. I love plantains. I love avocados, and I love, making avocado salad. Somebody don't like that. Cool. What do you like? We can make a little mixture, like a dip, like an avocado dip, using things that you like. It doesn't have
So
to
you
be what I
customize
like.
it.
You customize. You can do that.
Tell us how they can find you.
All right. So you can find me.
Get some recipes
I
out
know. You
there.
can find me on
Make
chefbee.com,
sure that's 3 E's, y'all.
chefbee.com. But then, really, what it points to is the whole piece, right? It points to the coaching, the education, but then it also points to the meal prep that we do. And the meal prep business that we do is essential meals, the number two go.com, where we make healthy, plant based, internationally inspired meals for folks every week. And so, for somebody who doesn't like the chickpeas and the curry and all that, we got something else for them. It's all internationally inspired, it's all healthy, but delicious and flavorful and just where they need to be.
So we have international and national based people. Do
Mhm.
you only service the Atlanta based community?
No, we actually ship nationwide. And so people can pick up, they can come to our commercial kitchen and pick up. We also deliver. And then if you live in DC or Alabama or Tennessee or wherever, we will freeze those meals and ship them out overnight, and you'll have them the next day.
All right, y'all. PRT.
No
Hey, no
excuses.
excuses. You
No
can
excuses. Let's go.
Let's do it. All right, joining us in the studio is Jonathan Scott Young.
Hello, Jonathan.
Hello, sister. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
It was a pleasure. It's an honor. I was listening to you ever since you've been on the broadcast. And thank you, Dr. Holloway, for having such a gifted talent here and to share her gifts. Sister, I just left DeKalb Farmers Market.
Ooh, that's where our kitchen is. It's right over there.
Sister, I spent $173.
Listen, that's what you're going to pay if you want to stay alive. Come
You
on now.
better say it.
Hey, you gonna pay for it on the front end or the
Or the
back
back
end?
end,
One
yeah.
of them.
Listen.
So my question to you, I have a couple of questions, but the first one is, when you were growing up as a little girl, who inspired you? Was it grandmama or somebody that who had you in the kitchen?
Actually, a few people. Like in the Caribbean culture, you're in the kitchen. Everybody knows how to cook. So my mother was the one who inspired me, probably primarily because I was really a mama's girl. And then my grandmother, she was actually from South Carolina. My great grandfather, he remarried. So my great grandmother passed.
Yes.
So when I came to the United States to spend, to live,
Yeah.
my great grandfather was with this beautiful Southern woman, and she took me on as her grandchild.
Oh.
So anytime I went to visit, she was making pound cakes, pineapple pound cakes, frying fish, whiting fish with white rice, gravy. So I was getting that
Yeah.
perspective.
Southern, yeah.
But then when I'm home on Sunday, my mama talking to her sister, her mother, girl, what you cooking today, girl? What's going on? Gossiping, sharing the family business,
Yeah.
and doing all the things, baking. And my mother showed me, she taught me how to clean fish, clean chicken, season, just do all the things that we take for granted now in the kitchen. And I mean, that's where I got my first beginnings in cooking.
I was just going to ask you, when did you really feel that you had an anointing on food?
Great
Ooh,
question.
that's a great question.
Yes, ma'am.
I would say it's interesting, like maybe when I was in my late teens, early 20s, because I didn't realize that a lot of my friends, when I left home to come to college, they weren't cooking. They didn't have the same kind of experiences I had. So when I would visit DC, Philly, my friends, I'm cooking at their home. I would come home for the holidays. My mama was making me cook her food. And I'm like, I'm on break. What's up?
Right.
So I've always been that person in my circle. Gosh, when you gonna make this thing for me? When you gonna make that thing for me? And I enjoyed it. So maybe it was in my early 20s, I realized that this is something that I really enjoy doing. And I always remember saying, gosh, if I knew that I could, if I had permission, I would probably have gone to culinary school
Wow.
instead of college. So I went to culinary school later
Yeah.
during like the pandemic so that I could learn how to make vegan cuisine, plant-based cuisine.
So there's a track specifically for plant-based?
Yeah, there's all
Wow.
sorts of institutions out there now that weren't available 30 years ago. There was sort of this classically trained chef from Paris or wherever these, institutes were.
Mm.
But that's not one, that's just one style of cooking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so there are others that have popped up over the years for people who don't want to gut pork and gut chicken and do.
Right.
I didn't want to do that. So
So it was in divine timing.
it was in divine timing. Absolutely.
Well, talk to us about um, where we're going as a people. A
Mm.
lot of people want to eat pork and
Don't want to give
beef
it
and
up.
all that
Yeah.
stuff. And with the current food empire, it's changing to be
Yes.
that GMO. Is that it? Is
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
GMO?
Genetically modified organisms.
Yeah, and so earlier I heard you mention so many things that is in the ground
Yes.
that we need. Period.
Yes.
But people are lacking the fundamental education
Mm-hmm.
of food.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us in the audience about where this food empire is probably going and what we need to really stay away from because, and I'm saying this because chicken, it's just highly impossible for everybody to be selling chicken wings, chicken breast every day, day in and day out. And then I remember back in the day in North Carolina, it took a chicken almost 6 months to really come, but now they inject it with steroids. So now you can get a chicken in about 2 or 3 weeks. But watch this. The stuff that they sell in Chinese restaurants, like the chicken. Talk to us about
Mm-hmm.
where we're going and enlighten people about the food that we're getting or even get ready to get 5 years from now. It's not going to be food. It's going
Yeah.
to be GMO.
Or I saw that lab grown meat.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna actually talk about. I actually did a live about this
Wow.
the day I was compelled on the day New Year's Day to tell people to be careful on what they're eating
Come on. Come on.
because so there's the whole cultured meat movement, and when we say cultured meat we're talking about the plant-based substitutes, the Impossible Burgers, the what's the other
Morning
one?
Star.
Morning Star. So that's called cultured foods, cultured meat. And so there are people who actually go to school to learn how to engineer flavors, textures,
Wow.
so that they can taste and look just like meat.
Wow.
They have like when you cut it, it looks like it's bleeding
No
and it's
way.
yeah, absolutely. So this is where we are because we're in a highly technical, highly high tech world where people have shown, consumers have shown manufacturers that they refuse to give up eating a certain way.
Ooh.
They want what they want.
Yeah. Come on.
They want what they want. And regardless of if we have carbon emissions and, greenhouse effects from cows and chickens and pollution, people want what they want. And I think it's not even, they're so succumbed to the food. They're so succumbed to the bad food that is out there that it's an addiction.
Mm.
It's an addiction.
Jesus.
And so as a result, the things that they're feeding us, the things that you're seeing in stores is not real. Like there's 3D printed meat.
Yes.
3D printed meat.
When you
Well,
when
we
you
can't
say
really call it meat, but it
Meat
looks,
or looks
air
like
quotes,
right,
yeah, it looks like
right.
meat. Yeah.
what's that?
He's like, what's that?
It's engineered in a lab.
It's engineered in a
not
lab.
meat.
But they put it in a package and put it in the store.
They put in a
And it looks
package, put it
like-
inside of the alternative meat section.
Wow.
So if someone's looking for a plant-based alternative,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, let me try this. Right? They're looking for a plant-based sausage, or they're looking for a plant-based chicken or a plant-based ground turkey.
Mhm.
Let me try this. You see what I'm saying? It's not soy, so they know. So there are all these things, right? So we just have to be really careful. So I'm going to speak to a couple things. So it's not soy. It's gluten free. It got no nuts. So you're dealing with the challenge that people are dealing with, which is they have all of these allergies now because the food has just changed. Allergies that didn't exist 30 years ago, 20 years ago, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so as a result, manufacturers are like, okay, I need to make something that's going to be gluten free, nut free, soy free, this free, that free, right? To meet the need of a consumer. Over here, the consumer is getting trash. So, what's the solution? You have to grow your own food, or you have to really figure out the sourcing of your food. There are still opportunities for us to choose foods where they're sourced.
Wow.
Local farmers here in Atlanta, urban farming, where they're selling the produce and things of that nature. And then you're not going to be able to get everything that they grow because they're limited. There's this connection that we need to reimmerse ourselves with the earth, the land, and our food.
Question. Earlier, because I heard you mention it about 3 or 4 times, vegan, vegan, vegan. My first question to you is, we've seen an influx, a sharp increase in vegan restaurants, right?
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Y'all should see her face. Oh,
Right.
wait a minute. What's that about before you finish your question?
Right. Yes, ma'am.
What's the face,
Yeah,
Chef
come
B?
Because
Turn this
come
guy
on,
over
Chef.
here. So here's the thing, right?
Deep breath. Okay. Give us
Here's
the
the
tea.
thing. So I don't like using the word vegan. I say plant-based.
Plant-based.
And the reason why is because vegan, I don't feel like is a terminology that's ours. Okay. Veganism was created many moons ago. It's more of a political position around your relationship with food, animal rights, all of that.
Come on now.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's getting deep right there.
So that's veganism.
Yeah.
What we're doing isn't veganism because it's still kind of junk food vegan, right? And that connection to plants and having the veggies and the animals, how that you're respecting the animals and things of that nature. We're not necessarily doing that.
It's more for your health.
Right. I think plant-based gives you, it's sort of this umbrella, and there are different ways of eating that really flow underneath it. So for me, I say I'm a plant-based chef because it's more inclusive than if I were to say I'm vegan. All right. Technically, yes, the food is vegan, technically. But I want to still give people an opportunity to flow, because veganism, the way people feel about veganism is it's very restrictive.
Right. Like I don't eat anything with a face.
I don't eat anything with a face. I don't eat honey. You see what I'm saying? I don't eat. So, and I would say this, like if you're vegan, you're not eating eggs. If you're vegan, you're not eating honey. If you're plant-based, maybe you have some eggs. Maybe you have some honey. Maybe you have some butter. So it gives people a little bit more room to flow. And so when people are working to make a behavior change, a lifestyle change, that might be too much for them. Be a reason that they're like, I don't know if I want to do that just yet.
I like that you included that people can be flexible.
It has to be. It has to be. So in terms of what you asked earlier about where we're going, right? We have to be mindful about flexibility. You know, things are about to get crazy. It's already getting crazy. Our food systems have been compromised in so many ways. The soil is depleted, right? And so when you're talking about big ag and getting your food, like big ag manufacturing of your fruits and vegetables, it's like we got to go back to small scale production. You got to go back to creating relationships with your farmer and knowing that, okay, this is what he's growing these next few months. CSAs, community supported agricultures, that's those memberships where you are connected with a local farmer and you're spending $30 or $40 a month to get a basket of produce, of fresh fruits and vegetables.
Let me ask you a quick question. I know you had.
It was
I
on
know
my tip of my tongue. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
I always tell people, because the disheartening thing is we have a lot of people that's dying of cancer. Every time you look up, it's
Mhm.
cancer, 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 cancer. And I always say, it's what we eating, it's what they putting in our food,
And what we're thinking,
Okay,
and
come on.
how we're being, lifestyle. It's not just food. So we talk about primary food and secondary food. Primary food is what you're thinking, what your environment is like, the relationships you have with people, your finances, just
Holistically,
the
overall.
things that are coming, your food that's coming to you like this.
Yes.
Your secondary foods are the things that you're ingesting. But if you think about it, the thing that has the greatest impact on you are your primary foods, your mental health, your spiritual health.
Yeah.
Those things are impacting you. So you can't say that someone who's experiencing cancer necessarily is just their food, their secondary food. I don't know what their thoughts are. I don't know if they've been dealing emotionally with something, anger that's been affecting their liver, or there's been fear, or there's been something going on in their mind, their body for many, many years. And now it's manifesting as cancer. So I say that it's the sum total of all of these things. It's not just one thing. It's never just one thing.
Yes.
If you, oh gosh, go ahead.
Have you seen someone switch from having a more omnivore type diet to plant-based, and you've seen some changes in how their health has changed, or maybe they had a medical illness? I know you shared a little bit about yours, but in your work with people that consult with you, have you noticed that, hey, I'm starting here with this particular issue, and you've created a plan for them, and you saw some results and they've seen some results?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, I have something called a palate reset that happens usually the beginning of the year, but you can do a palate reset anytime. Usually it's for folks who are looking to do some kind of lifestyle change. And it's a raw food experience for about a week. And then the way we have it structured now, they jump right into the meal prep program. So we had somebody who started with our palate reset a year ago. She's been with me for the last year. So I make all her meals. And when she came to me, she had her A1C was elevated. So her doctor was like, "Look, I'm about to put you on this medication. Your sugar's too high." And so, from a lifestyle standpoint, one of the things that we were doing, she was eating out a lot. So she would get my food, but she's still going and getting like stuff that she shouldn't be getting and eating. So I was telling her, I was like, "Look, it's like my food. I would say, even though you're getting it outside of you, it's home cooked food. It just is, right?" And I'm like, eat that first. Eat your food that you've purchased first before going out and then going to McDonald's. Oh, I don't know if she was doing that, right? But just shifting how you think about how you eat, portion control, not snacking a lot,
Even chewing.
chewing,
Chew.
drinking water, not hydrating enough, right? Getting rid of the sugary drinks. All of those things impact which you'll see in terms of your biometrics, right? And so she went back to the doctor maybe 6 months later. And the doctor's like, "What you doing?"
Uh-oh.
"Girl, what you doing? These numbers, what? What's going on? These numbers are different." So, yes, so if someone is serious, that's one of the challenges of all of this is being serious, being consistent, being committed, having the vision for who you want to be and how you want to see yourself, and doing the work.
What is a small, realistic step that somebody can take that is interested in becoming more plant-based?
I would say a very accessible way to be plant based is to just choose a day out of the week, try it on, and just eat plant-based meals that one day.
Like a meatless Monday.
Like a meatless Monday or Wellness Wednesday, like
I
today,
love
like a
that.
Wellness Wednesday. And so you can have a smoothie. So instead of doing the bacon and eggs, do a smoothie that day, do some oatmeal. Because ultimately, when people feel full and they're hydrated properly, you're like, "I'm good. I don't need nothing." most of the time we're not drinking enough water, we're not hydrating enough, we're not putting the right things in the body. So you're like, I want more, right? But I would say that's a great place to start. Just choose a day and eat more things that you like that don't have meat in it.
Yeah, put personal question.
Go ahead, go
All
ahead,
right,
go
well, not
ahead.
personal, but as a chef,
Hmm.
if you could cook for anybody, living or historical,
Ooh,
who would you want to cook for?
Jonathan Young.
who would I want to cook for?
Jonathan Young.
This guy.
Career engineer.
Ooh.
Right,
Who
sure.
would you want to cook?
Yeah. I mean, would it be somebody like Stevie Wonder, or would it be somebody like,
That's such an interesting question.
Yeah, but that's good.
That's a good one. So it has to be a famous
It can
person?
be whomever. But who
What
would you
about
want?
like Prime Minister of where are you from? Jamaica?
Guyana.
Guyana.
You know, actually, the first person that popped in my head is my father.
Wow.
Oh,
My father died last year.
Wow.
Okay. And in the Caribbean, men know how to cook.
oh.
They know how to cook. My father was an avid baker, and he taught all his sons how to bake and
Wow.
cook. He raised chickens and all of that. And I remember maybe like 2 years ago when I went to visit, I made this dish, and he was like, "Who made this? Who made this?" And I was like, "I did." He's like this was really good. It was
He was impressed.
amazing. He was impressed.
What was it? What was it?
So it's a curry dal dish. So it's like a lentil based dish with rice, and he was drinking it in a cup, and he was just like, "Yo, this is so freaking good. I want more."
Wow.
And I felt so much pride, right?
Yeah.
So the things like I feel like my hands have been developing over the last few years, and I would want him to taste what I'm creating now.
I love that.
Yeah,
That was
so
beautiful.
I would want him to somebody called me, y'all, this week. One of my clients, it was like, "Girl,
Uh-oh.
this dish that you make," because she's talking about the meal prep. She's like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "Yo, the hand is getting sweeter and sweeter." And I was like, my father would be proud of me. So, yeah, that's who I would want to cook for
Let
him.
me ask you a question.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw something at you.
Uh-oh. Let's go.
Would you allow JPRG Radio to host you in a conference room, making one or two of your famous dishes, and allow us to invite about 20 people?
I mean, of course.
I'm
Yes.
serious.
Yes,
We
yes,
did
and
that right
yes.
before the show.
Yeah.
Oh my
Because I
God.
think that,
Yes.
so I'm a video producer, and I produced this TV show where this dude was cooking salmon
Mhm.
in Michigan, and it went over so good for him, that people just right there in a close audience had him come and do some stuff for private settings and stuff,
Yeah.
and he just took off. So I think because of your talent, your skills, your personality, if we invited 20 or 30 people in here and you just created a couple of dishes that, something like little appetizers
Yeah,
for them.
absolutely.
I think, do you have any books?
I do. I have a cookbook. The cookbook is called Let Plants Nourish You.
Yeah.
36 simple plant-based recipes infused with essential oils. So
Say it one more time.
Yeah.
it's called Let Plants Nourish You.
Wow.
And the reason I did that cookbook was I really wanted to introduce people to raw food and also the use of essential oils.
Mhm.
Essential oils is something that's a little different when in the culinary space. Usually when we think of essential oils,
Like aromatherapy.
aromatherapy,
Mhm.
massage, all of that, right? And essential oils can also be used depending on the quality in plant-based cuisine. So I was one of the first people to introduce that in Atlanta.
Wow.
Got a lot of pushback, but people now like, "Oh snap, this is
Where
where's she at?"
Yeah,
Exactly.
where's she at?
So we wrote that cookbook. So yes, we can do it. We would do it. I love
like that. So we have two dynamic young brothers in the studio, under 30. They're under 30. So what would you share with the audience of under 30, or, because they may go get some spaghetti, or, some beef ribs and all that stuff. What would you tell youth today about eating properly?
Man, I'll tell you what I told my son. I said, brother, look at your family. Look at both sides of the family.
Mm-hmm.
Look at both sides. So we're not trying to be disrespectful, but if you look at what your mother's side of the family and the father's side of the family, the issues that they're dealing with,
Come on.
it is a peek into the future for you and the issues that you could potentially deal with if you don't get your health and wellness together now. Because what kids have is they have time. They can buy time. They could do a bunch of bad stuff now, and they don't see the direct effect now. But what's happening is the body's changing, the cells are changing still when you do it now. Why do all of those things and reap the bad things that can happen? Rather choose the good things that can happen if you choose differently.
Yes.
So diabetes, hypertension, mental illness, dementia, all of those things that are plaguing our families, the young people can help to avoid those things. Because just because you see them in your family doesn't mean that you're going to inherit those things.
Correct.
Right? You have to choose lifestyle that works for you, that's different than that. And you can create a different outcome for yourself. So I tell my son that all the time. All this stuff that you eating, you know better. But I'm not gonna tell you, oh, you need to. I'm just gonna be the example for you. But look on both sides and see what they're dealing with. And just because you cute right now don't mean that you're gonna be cute forever.
That's right.
You gotta do the work now, so that you can maintain the cuteness for later. So that's what I would say.
Exercise play
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's more critical as you get older. The movement piece, moving, getting that blood flow. I'm 51 and
that concerns me because so many people are looking for these remote-based jobs.
I don't understand it. Listen, I'm 51 and I be feeling it. I be feeling it in my body. And I go and I work out 3-4 days out the week.
Yes.
And you still got the aches and pains, but it's how you feel after you do the work. So I don't even understand how people are not moving right now. Like, people are not moving enough. They're not working out. They're not running. They're not walking. They're not getting fresh air. They're just in their house, like you said, remote jobs. It's like, what are you doing? So they haven't felt the effects of it enough yet to make a change. That's the issue.
I like to tell my clients the things you do today can and will affect you tomorrow.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a matter of time.
Absolutely.
As we wrap this segment up, let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
God has truly blessed you.
I'm grateful.
You've seen much and you've done much. The question is, if you could just pause in life right now, what would you share with the audience just about the journey you've been on, how it's made you feel as a woman from
Guyana.
But what has it done for you interpersonally, mentally? What?
I would say I'm so grateful that I'm from Guyana because I have perspective.
Come on, somebody.
I have perspective. I come from a developing country. And I think a lot of times the things that we're doing is because we don't have another perspective on how other people are living and what they don't have. So I am absolutely grateful to even be here with you, Dr. Kenika, and the opportunities that I've been afforded just being a little girl who migrated here with her family from Guyana to New York, to Atlanta, just chasing being free of a particular situation where you have more opportunities.
Wow.
And I think what happens is we take for granted the opportunities that we have.
Wow.
So I would say, don't take anything for granted.
Yes.
Don't take any of your opportunities for granted because there's somebody else that wishes that they had the position and the place that you're in.
Come on, somebody.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I love that.
Doc, it's on you.
I know. We have to wrap this segment up, y'all. This has been beautiful. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy days to spread some information, education about plant-based
Yes.
Diet, lifestyle change.
Lifestyles.
You know?
I just grabbed me some crab legs.
Listen, you can have a little bit, just don't overindulge.
Yeah.
Everything in moderation.
Everything
Right.
in moderation,
Even too
for
much
sure.
water is bad.
Yeah, and one more time for the audience.
How can they find you?
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So, y'all, we are on YouTube, the Chef Bee channel, CHEF BEEE. That's Be Empowered, Energized, and Engaged. And we're also on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We're on Twitter or X. I am Chef Bee. All right.
Do you go out for like personal people could hire you for chef?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Beautiful.
We do corporate catering now.
Yes.
Essential Meals to Go. We do a weekly meal prep program, essentialmealstogo.com. Check us out. We're on Google. Check out our reviews. We got great reviews. And then if you're interested in really helping your teams now eat better
Yes.
in this 2025 year, eat cleaner, have more elevated energy, call us up. Essential Meals to Go. We do corporate catering, healthy lunches, retreats, you name it.
Who in your family wants to be after you? Who takes after you?
No.
Anybody?
My son, the little one, the
little
9-year-old.
Oh.
That's it. That's it. Everybody else looking at me sideways like, I don't do that.
Right.
I don't do that. I'm like, okay.
To each his own.
To each his own.
To each his
There's one on
own.
the rise.
Thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of Healing Conversations, where my aim is to heal hearts, heal minds, one conversation at a time, y'all. And if you are interested in learning how to have more of a plant-based diet or introduce your families to it, because it's much easier if you do it as a family to
Yeah,
get that
I agree.
support. Do it if you've been thinking about
Just
it.
do
What's
it.
holding you back?
Let's go.
Change
Listen.
is inevitable.
Let me say this. If you go online, and if you're on YouTube or anywhere, you can just book a discovery call with us. And we can have a conversation. We can see what kind of challenges you're dealing with and really kind of help to guide you through the first steps of working with us.
And let them know you heard about her through JPRG Radio.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
let us know. All right, y'all. Until next time.
Till next time.
Be well.
Be well. Peace. Thank you, everyone.
Y'all grab that?
So we got our own cook now.